Let's talk about racism, okay? Where actually racism comes from. Racism is taught. A lot of people think is racism embedded in our DNA or our fabric, our creation, and that's not true. Humanity are not racist by nature. They're not born to be racist. Then racism is taught. Racism is taught in the school system, is taught in household system, taught in education, taught in health, governmental systems, hierarchy. You know what I mean? That where the racism come from. Racism comes from people who are manipulating or running the show. The one ruling the earth, are racism comes from them. You know what I'm saying? And because they own the education, they own the media, they own the news, they own everything, even social media, education, health, uh, everything you can think of, they own. You know, and it stems from them. Racism, it stems from them. Okay, and sorry, there's police cars going by. Anyhow, racism comes from them. You know what I'm saying? It's taught, and because we're by nature, humanity are not racist. We are not known to be racist people. It's taught. You know what I'm saying? But only the woke people, only people who are awoke or awake or whatnot, they know this this truth. That why you find people who know exactly what racism is and why racism was created to create division, segregation, to put people on hierarchy, and oppress. the major, the major reason why racism was created to create oppression. What do you think racism it means? It means to oppress somebody else because of your race or your skin color or whatever your background or your ancestry, whatnot. So I was just watching a while back. I was watching this professor who was accused for. He was accused of, but it was not proven. He was accused of plagiarism, and basically, not citing resources or whatnot. And so anyhow, he was pressured to resign, which is he resigned. Then he committed suicide. He killed himself. And you know how many news outlet and social media and education or university or whatever have written articles condemning this, condemning this behavior, right? And meanwhile, when other ethnic groups, is particularly white people, accused of plagiarism, plagiarizing. What's the word? I can't even spit it out. Plagiarism. They are accused of using materials not theirs and not citing it and whatnot. Especially this professor who's in. I'm going to include the video. He was accused of the same thing with this other African slash, well, he's British, I would say. He would say he's a second or third generation British, so his ancestry probably black or whatever. But anyhow, this professor and the Jewish professor was accused of the same thing. The Jewish guy never been written articles, trillions and trillions of articles condemning him. He was not pressured to resign. He was even um, put in a hierarchy where he was not demoted. You know what I mean? And he was given a higher position in promotion. Eugenics. He's talking about eugenics, and he's talking about white race is this Jewish guy. He's saying white race is more superior than the black race. Okay, and we know this not to be true, and I can prove it to you. The black race is more superior, right? And I can prove it to you many. I can give you many different evidence. The black race is more superior, right? But at least we're not cocky about it. We don't say like, look at us, we are much better than you. You know, we are more superior. You know, so this Nazi teachings has been taught by excuse my French, by who, the Zayos. It's been taught by these people who are ruling the world, who are the one who creating segregation, divisions, and all problems stems from them. Okay. Intelligence, he said. So let's debate intelligence. He says intelligence comes from genetics. Now, what he's saying about eugenics. Eugenics is they're talking about genetics. Okay. Genetics, they saying white race is more superior, which is not true. Because studies have found, look it up, guys. I'm not gonna find you. Not gonna source anything. I'm just you guys can go look it up. What I'm telling you. Genetics, what black race has more genetic blessings. God have given the black race more genetic blessing. The black race are the only race can create any other colors. The rainbow was the entire rainbow, the race of human race, created from black. Black existed before white existed. Blacks and other races are spliced from the black race. You understand? That why Noah is genetically was God. Okay, God considered Noah or the bloodline, the prophet bloodline are blessed, the blessed seed. He looked at Noah and the entire bloodline, and God's favor the entire house because they know this creation is favorable to God. Okay, but it's not purely the house of Abraham is not purely black race. It's spliced, angelic and human race. Now we study have found the Eve gene, which is the first woman ever created, and where do you think they found the genes actually came from? The Eve gene. We came all from Adam and Eve, right? And God says, in a nutshell, He says, we all to Adam, and Adam was from what? Mud. God created Adam from mud, water, and He created from mud and water, right? Like from clay and water, right? Okay, and God says, "Kullana Adam," when Adam from turab. He says we all created from Adam, from one man, and that's how Eve was created. Created also from the same genetic material, and everybody's created from that. Can white people say their great whatever? You go as far as you can. Can you say you're not from Adam and Eve? Can you say that? No, you cannot say that, because it says the truth. Adam and Eve were black. Okay, Adam and Eve were black. You understand? And I know it's hard for you to fathom or wrap it around your head to believe we all created from black race. So anyhow, the Eve gene is found in Africa. It started in Africa. This is what the researchers have found recently. That, but people on top, they know the truth. They know we are more superior. You know what I'm saying? The black in Africa. So anyhow, the other creation of other races is genetic modification, or what do you call it? So other races came from some sort of genetic splicing, right? DNA editing, okay? And that's how they were created, okay? And these people now are fighting. They're using. These people now are using. They're using media and stuff, telling people. This guy saying that this professor. I don't even know his name. I don't care to know him anyhow because he's racist. Scum. He's spreading all hate and stuff like that. He said is more superior. So we know Adam and Eve were black. The prophet bloodline, 70% all the prophets, there only 25 were mentioned in Holy Quran. They're prominent, but a lot of prophet came through. They're not being mentioned in the Holy Quran. You understand? And guess what? 70% of these prophets are black. You understand? So, and when God says, let's be light, that means black existed. When it says, let there be light. When God says that. God said that, right? So, that means black existed, guys. Why would God say, let there be light if white existed? Okay? You understand? So, I know it's hard for you to wrap your head around this. The truth hurts, you know what I mean, into the core. And these people are creating divisions. Why would this professor commit suicide for something the other white people have done and they never got this publicity? You know why? Why over 100 articles to be written by this professor, for not citing sources. Okay? So why other white professors are not being put through the ringer? Why we're not being humiliated in such a way? Because you know why? Because now it is between this Jewish guy, he's saying the white race is superior, which we know is not true. And because they are the one they are an education system. And the saddest part is, if you're part of these enemy agenda, you will get rewarded. You will get promoted. You understand? Because you know what? Their job in the Masons. So, for example, the Masons. Let's talk about the Masons. Their jobs in the Masons is not available to anybody. So you find these, these high-ranking positions in the government officials and judges and judges and police, or army or secret service are all given, to if you are part of the collective, if you are part of these people, if you are serving them. So these jobs are available to you. So these are the one who created Nazi systems and Communist Party and segregation, divisions, hate. Okay? So he said, white race is more superior. which is, I just proved to you. You can go and look up what I told you. Look up what I told you about that black, where is Eve gene came from in Africa. Civilization. National Geographic says, after study and research, National Geographic says the civilization started in Africa, right? Okay, so we created all these other races, blacks. When you mix the rainbow color, God rainbow, 7 colors. Okay, the main 7 colors that were humanity, created from, they were created from splicing, But when you mix the 7 colors, do you get white? When you mix the 7 colors, do you get white? You don't get white. You don't get white at all. Okay? So go mix the 7 colors. What do you get? You get murky gray, murky green, dark color. It's dark color, gray, between gray and black. You understand? So when you separate the 7 colors, that what humanity created from, and 7 continent and stuff, the 6 day of creation and 7 day of rest, which is the Sabbath, right? So seven, you understand? And so anyhow, racism is taught. I have to admit, I have to tell you that racism is taught by these people who are running the show to create hatred between us. So I just talked about this yesterday. Just yesterday. I talked to you guys about why they are turning us against each other. It's tactics. It's tactic because they feed on louche energy, chaos. When we are not in harmony, we are fighting each other. This is what they love the most. They love chaos. They feed in chaos. Their god is a chaos god. Satan is a chaos. You know what I'm saying? Because he doesn't like harmony. He doesn't like people. He doesn't like people when they're in harmony and at peace with each other. They like it. Satan and his seed love it when we're fighting each other. Okay? And so anyhow, if you go and look at he's saying genetically, blacks are, less superior. I beg to differ that they are much superior. Even I can find you another video where this billionaire says to these black women, they said they use black women menstrual blood, to improve their DNA. But what this menstrual blood coming from? He says African black women. Why all these billionaire elites want to use the dirty blood that comes from menstrual blood in black women to improve their DNA? You understand? Because they know that our DNA is much superior, right? They know the truth. And I'm gonna find you that video where he said clearly the DNA of African are much superior. This is coming from a white person, so you cannot say I'm being biased or they know. It doesn't mean okay. When you say you're much better than blacks, they're lying. They're lying. They know they are lying. You know what I mean? Blacks created all the other races. Okay? So I I have never really faced racism as much until I became a target individuals. My brother faced racism more than me. A lot of people, even in the education system, he faced racism. Where one of the department heads says that his education was fabricated or made up or is not legit. He have not gone to that university, and he does not have a PhD, and which caused the university he was working for to reassess and to send paperwork to trying to prove that my brother is actually went to that university. And anyhow, he went to that university, but the department head, he felt he's not smart enough to go to that university and to get his education from that university, and also to finish his PhD in 2.5 years versus 5 years. Because he thought that because that university was higher in ranking worldwide than the department head, who accused my brother of submitting false credential, and he never went to that university, which is they went and did their checkup, and they said, yeah, he graduated from that university and that year, and yes, all his education are legit. Okay? So my brother received hatred like that, which is, was bullshit. And he had to go to court, and he had to fight for it. Anyhow, he won the case because obviously he's educated enough, and yeah. So my brother has been subjugated to a lot of hate, a lot of racism and stuff more than me, honestly. And I have not received as much hatred or discrimination until I became a target individuals. I'm more well-liked. I was more well-liked among a lot of friends, places I work for. I'm well-liked, and just this is the way it is, because I didn't really create ripples or whatnot. I did not try to prove anything or anything. I just been myself, But anyhow, my brother was racist. He received a lot of racism and hate. He was accepted to a university in London, Ontario, Canada, and he got a full scholarship to go to that university. And when he went to that school, and he went to the lunchroom, and he went to that school, and he went to the lunch. When he was in class, when he's a lecturer at that university, every time he raised his hands to answer questions professors asked, when the professor realized that my brother was smart, they started ignoring my brother. They ignored my brother, and because they know every answer he given was just a right one. The professor didn't want the student to feel like he's smart or they being belittled. They're not smart enough, So he stopped ignoring my brother. When my brother raised his hands to answer, they would not ask him to answer, because he didn't want the other student to feel stupid. Okay, and this school was predominantly white. My brother, that school was predominantly white. When he went to the lunchroom, and he went to when he went to that lunchroom, and he sat one time on a table. Like, he went to a lunchroom, and all the tables were taken and whatnot, and he went and sat next to white people, white students. I'm telling white and black. You know why? Because I'm emphasizing on the nature of these people who implant, hatred and ill intention toward people because of their skin color, right? That's why I'm saying that, okay? Anyhow, Could you believe the whole table got up and left? They didn't want to sit next to him. And that's at that university, you know. So my brother told me the story. He says they didn't want to sit next to him. They got up and left. And he told me how he was treated at that school. So my brother applied to another university in the U.S. and he got accepted. He got also another full scholarship. He left. He packed up his stuff. He says, I'm not staying in the school after how I'm being treated. And yeah, so hatred is taught. It's taught, you know, and discrimination, racism, and all of that is taught. You understand? Okay, I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna sum it. So this video is getting too long, but anyhow, I'm gonna tell you a story. True story. True story. I did not make. I swear to God. If I made this story, I hope God strike me now. You know, and I'm gonna tell you a true story. When the Queen was alive, okay. When the Queen was alive, she called me Nigel. When I first, you know, because they are in this program, these people on top, they are in this program running the show. When the Queen called me Nigel, at the time I didn't have any issue with the Queen. I didn't have any issue with the Queen. I kind of liked the Queen at the time until she called me Nigel. And guess what? She gave me a nickname, Nigel. And guess what? When I looked up name Nigel, what it means. Nigel means Negro. Nigel, it means Negro. I'm going to find you, I'm going to post you what it means. So when Meghan Markle says they are worried about the skin color of her child or her children, and I believe her. I believe her. What she says is true. Okay? I believe her. What she says is true. Because I have experience in first hands from these people on top calling me Negro. You understand? Hey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't faze me none. You can call me Negro, but I came before you. When God says, let there be light, we existed. So call me Negro all you want. You know, we are the best. We came first, you know. So for you to teach people hate based on skin color or genetics, genetically we are much better. But we're not cocky about it. You know, we're not cocky about it. You know, God is blessing black people with blessings. God never taught us to hate. Okay? So that's something you can never get. You know what I mean? So we are many steps ahead of you. You racist people, you know? Thank you, racist.